just to quickly make an inference so I don't create a gap. In one community, the question you raised when people talk, in one community where there was a mapping, and just to quickly, the EU project was not necessarily an EU project, it was engaging communities to develop an architecture. It was owned. There was an ownership piece. Faith was part of that project at that time. In one community where the candidates signed an accord with them and they refused to do it, by the next election, the people locked the door and stoned the candidate. The community suffered. But the essence I'm saying is that a community, like a community of practice, when the community says this is the route to go, and everybody in the community, don't forget, everybody in the community is multi-layer. You have doctors, you have nurses, you have all layer. Beyond, in addition to having the suggestion by SZ1. Back to your conversation, the question about security and otherwise. There's a huge trust deficit in the electoral system. Citizens' apathy is beginning to get higher, that our vote may not count. So what's the essence of actually voting? That reassurance is what matters. And that is why in this election, INEC has come out to say your vote will count. That will be something to also hold on to. In addition to holding political party and candidate to account for what they say or what they did not say, when INEC says that your vote will count and that this is what will happen, these are the processes, when you vote, this is what will happen, citizens must also hold INEC to account. To say you said this and we did this did not happen. That line, because when we have built trust, then you can actually increase voting population to show up. Beyond that, when you look at most of the things that matter to citizens are not within the concurrent list. Security concern actually is an exclusive list item. Even though in Ondo State, very uniquely in Ondo State, who led their Mutekuns, the Southwest, let's say North State actor now, even though they bear arms legitimately, it as a result, thanks to the former governor who led that, the late governor, who led that architecture, mobilizing the other governors in the Southwest. Today, Amotekun is seen as the, in quote, the only, I'm very conscious of the choice of my words so that the police don't say that I'm undermining them. The only system that the communities tend to believe when there's a concern far in the interland. There was a kidnapping case in Ondo State one day during the election of 4 years ago, when they said, call the police. They said, no, call Amotekun. So Amotekun's become like the closest to them. And that's part of what we talk about federalism. This issue around, somebody in this conversation said, people pay attention to national election more than state election. Because everybody now think that what we will eat will come from the national government. Anything that will happen, you need to just create a road from your local government to another local government or from your street to another. You are waiting for a president far away in Abuja to come to Ondo State. Whereas the governor of your state, the chair of your local government, is the one with the responsibility. That gap has created an enormous concern. Back to the conversation about issues. Poverty. Prof has talked about that. Poverty in every election will always come up because when you look at the community, a civil service state that we always say, both in the two states in off-cycle election are basically civil service state. The majority of those who work for government. And today we're still talking about minimum wage, whether minimum wage is living wage or whether minimum wage is national wage. And those individuals who should benefit from the creative cake or the national cake are seeing it as if we win. You remember the First Republic where if you don't belong to the national government, you are going to suffer and all of those jargons. In today's Ondo, people are conscious of who will solve their greatest needs. And what is their greatest need? Unemployment, particularly young people who literally don't have the kind of, whether you call it white collar job or green collar job, whatever job. Today we have blue collar job because we have blue economy. There are a number of jobs, whether you call it entrepreneurship, development. You don't need a white collar job. You don't need to work in a civil service office. they expect a governor that will chart the path of prosperity, that this is the ideal thing. For example, in the first 100 days, whether you use 100 days, I don't believe in 100 days, just do your job. Yeah. That in the next 1 year, we will lift 1,000 people from poverty. We will give them this job, and this job they will earn this salary. After 2 years, this is over. You know, that kind of marking. So we mark and follow. You know why we don't follow? You ask everyone that question about why citizens don't follow. Majority of times, when politicians speaks to the crowd, we will give you water. Everybody will say, hey, to who? Not every community in the state need water. There are some who just need road. It's different from one community to another. There are communities who need to be able to address climate change concern. There are those who are battling with cholera. It's a major concern today. There are those whose health systems are total. There are communities without any portable cottage hospital. None. There are communities where there are no schools, dilapidated buildings. Each of those communities, when you talk about water, they have streams, they can easily boil their water and then come on and they are okay. But they need the school for their kids. That is their priority. There is no one campaign promise that fits all. Campaign promises are usually focused and targeted at a specific people, location, or community. So we can draw the line. That if you promise road to Owo, let's assume Owo has good roads. Maybe Owo doesn't have potable water. And you promise water to Owo. In the next 2 years, you can come out to say, I made a promise to Owo people that I will provide water. Today, we are commissioning this water. In any case, I'm not asking they spend 10 million to put water and they use 200 million to commission. That's another route for conduit pipe and conduit corruption. I think part of what we focus in this election is the media narrative, agenda setting. Everyone was very on point when he used the word setting agenda. What agenda do we need to set for Ondo State? One, tell us how you will lift at least 1 million or 200,000 in the next 2 years. Focus on lifting. Focus on youth unemployment. Focus on agriculture. The state is basically an agro-economy. How do you increase the land mass, agro land that people can farm? Young people are willing to farm, but they don't want to use cutlasses. They don't want to use hoes. How do you mechanize that process and make it fancy in a way that today we have what we call agro-business? How do you put young people who use social media to sell their yams, sell their fish? I mean, this is a tech world, and there is tech farm. Create a new world, and not to go through the rule of thumb that has consistently bedeviled our Nigerian state.
All right.